around the world.
Okay, so you'll go up to the little screen share button and then just select whatever the program is that you're sharing your photos from.
Okay. Oh, it's not actually coming up as a, oh look, I'll do it as that one.
If you just scroll all the way over to the left, when you mouse over, it should pull over a bar that has a whole
No,
bunch of
I've
little.
got it in like an
There you
Explorer
go.
tab. So hang on. Can you see anything there yet?
I can see me.
Uh, so
There we go.
you got it? You got
Yeah.
something there?
hmm
Okay. I
Perfect.
thought it'd be
That'll
better
work.
to show them from here rather than from the net because it's a bit clearer and you can get a better size, I think.
hmm Yeah, this is great. Okay, so have you gotten a chance to watch any of the others?
I've watched most of yours, I think, and quite a lot of other ones. Because Deanna's was in the middle of the night for me. I've just finished watching it.
Okay,
So
great. Okay, so same thing. You're going to tell me a little bit about creating the shot and what you love and what you kind of saw as problem areas, if anything. And then I'm going to tell you what I think and grade it.
cool. Okay.
Ready
Um,
when you are.
okay. Well, this is a shot I call Memory Lane. It's one of the many laneways in Melbourne where they have about 60 of them, and it's quite a cafe culture there. And I used to spend my time on my spare time, sort of wandering through them with a camera, or just scouting, or just having a look and where the people were, what time they got through, and all the rest of it, and finding my favourite ones. And this is one of my favourites. This is probably the more elegant of the two. The other one is very grungy, where people sit literally next to graffiti walls and near dumpsters and stuff like that and drink coffee, which I never quite understood until I'd been there for a while. This is a much nicer, much more elegant place that has little boutiques. I'm standing in at the door of a chocolate shop actually to get this shot, and because I'd been down there so much and I probably had coffee there quite a lot and had a breakfast a few times, everything, the waitress there really didn't pay me a lot of attention, which is nice. She's seen me before and it's no big deal. She knows I take photographs, and they kind of were easy with me, and that kind of seemed to put other people at ease. What I like about this, it comes under the general uh, travel photography, I guess, but it's also street photography, which I also enjoy, and it's very Melbourne. It's very this city. When you know what the city's like, people. This is the sort of thing they identify with. It's a city of, the sporting capital of Australia, but it's also probably the coffee capital of Australia. And I kind of like the simplicity of the streetscape while it's also very busy at the same time. Um, I like the fact that the waitress is there. She's ready to go. She stands back, and part of her job, besides serving her customers, is to spruik people in. It's a very big thing over there because the competition is so high. They try to entice people in. She's very good about it. She's quite classy, I guess, if you like, and she just invites people in, and she does a very good job. She's a great waitress. All the rest of it, I like the fact there's on the far left there. There's a young couple that have obviously just been shopping by the shopping bags underneath the table and having a nice latte and having a chat. They may be tourists, they may be students. There are a lot of Asian students in Melbourne, and a lot of them are very well off. So this is a lovely place to be. The light's nice. This is in between the rushes. I think it's one of the quieter moments. I like the stories of the people that you can see around them. I wait to see a nice combination of light, where the people are, where they're looking, what they're doing. The guy that's sort of standing or sitting behind the waitress is kind of peering in the same direction, reinforcing her look. And I mean, he could just be a businessman. He could be a tourist. He could be anything. He could be a hitman for all we know. And he's kind of just sitting there, sort of enjoying it, but keeping out of the way and in darkness. And the guys on the three guys on the right are almost certainly there for a footy trip. They probably come from down from the country or from interstate to go and watch a few games of football over a weekend or what have you. And they're talking about working out the worries of the world over a coffee and a bit of breakfast or something there. And if their wives came with them, they're probably off shopping nearby, or those two women who are coming in behind them could be could be the wives. You just don't know, and then you kind of look back, and I kind of like the fact, even though this the brightest part of the frame is towards the back of the frame, and it's not the actual subject, I don't mind breaking that rule because it drags your eye through it. It's a kind of shot that you go and have a look at many times. In fact, I was standing in front of a 5-foot printer, canvas print I had of it yesterday, and noticed something I hadn't noticed before, and I've had this for a few years now. So I kind of like those shots that give you more each time you look at them. It's, you know, it's had some processing. This is probably about the 5th different kind of edit I've done on it, because the original one was done by a friend of mine who cross-processed and channel mixed it. And while I like that, it was a bit dark and dingy for me, and I kind of like this because it is a kind of an airy lane. That the feeling of the place is quite light and comfortable and warm, and yeah, it's just one of those things. You sit and you keep going back and back and back until you find the right time of day, the right people in the right place, and then you pounce on it.
Yeah, and I think this is really beautifully composed as a shot as a whole. Usually you see people that have strengths in one particular area, and this one is very, very well rounded. I love the fact that the leading lines, with the way that you composed it with the architecture, follow the leading lines of the light. Like you said, it's not on the subject, but there isn't necessarily a subject. You know, if one of the people were going to compete for it, it would probably be the waitress, but it isn't. It's the shot as a whole, and I love that where your eyes naturally go because of the light is exactly echoed by the lines of the chairs and the lines of the grates in the center and the lines of the awnings with the restaurant. It's just very, very well done. It's also really tough because anytime that I see any kind of street photography or anything that was taken in the moment, it bothers me, and I want to go through and go, you should have had someone in that chair, and you should have evened it out because, you know, it's too heavy on this side. And you can't do that with street photography, but I always want to compose it. And this, everybody just cooperated perfectly with you with where they were supposed to be. The only person that I think is throwing it off is like the very last girl in the back that's all dressed in black walking forward, because you have all of this light and this kind of cream color scheme going on, and then she's like black, black shirt, black pants. So she sticks out a little bit. I might have gone in and cloned her out just because I think that she's the only thing that is disrupting the visual flow of it. But overall, I really love this shot, totally. Like, I really don't have a lot of critique for you on this one. I think it's just a beautiful shot of that little area. It makes you want to go sit down and have a coffee. And when it comes to any kind of street or travel photography or landscape, when I'm looking at things that aren't people, that are places, it has to make me want to go there. Otherwise, it's a failed image for me. And this one, all I want to do right now is go sit there and have a coffee. So I'm going to give it an exceptional. I think it's exceptionally well done and well composed, well lit. Everything fits well. There's a couple of spots further back on the girls that are walking in where the highlights are just a little bit hot, but they're also out of focus, so I don't think that it really takes away from the image. It just may have added to it had it been toned down just a little bit. But that's really it. It's a beautiful shot.
Thank you. Thank you. It's one of 9 shots. I actually went back and counted them, and I ended up with two good ones. I have another shot. It's a vertical of the waitress serving these people at the front. It's not quite as captivating, but it's a good companion shot. So yeah.
Okay. Next shot.
Next one. Okay. This one, this kind of reflects my interest in architecture as well, which also can fall under the broad term of travel. I absolutely love architecture, and I love religious buildings. I'm not a religious person, but I think they do the best buildings ever, and not just one religion. All of them do fantastic stuff, and just the ornate and the care that they take with it, and the beautiful lines, and the way that everything's so careful, and it's the best it can be, basically. And this is a shot of St. Patrick's in New York City, and I was kind of blown away when I went there because I went to visit my sister, and in Australia, you can't really wander around with a camera inside a cathedral. You would probably get death stares at the very least, maybe a bolt of lightning from the skies, I think. But they allow you to wander around, and there are people in there praying and doing lighting candles and doing all that sort of thing. And as long as you're not obtrusive, they won't let you use tripods or anything. But as long as you're not obtrusive, you can wander around and get your shots. The first time I wandered in here, I think the widest lens I had was a 24mm, and it wasn't going to do me any good. So I went to Adorama and bought a 12mm, 12 to 24 zoom. And I think like architecture and very wide-angle lenses go together very well, because it allows you to distort the perspective to such a degree that it enhances it. It enhances the lines. It elongates the lines that you want to elongate if you do it the right way, and it shortens the ones that you want to shorten. And I deliberately took this shot off center. I've got others. I've got one that's straight on, and it's okay. It's a beautiful building and it's straight on, but it's boring because it is straight on. This one gives you the feeling of just how immense this building is, how beautiful the ceiling and all the lines are, and how much care that they've taken, and how all of those lines reach up to the heavens, which is probably the ethos behind it. I don't know a lot about religious architecture, but it certainly makes you look upwards. It was a 5-frame HDR handheld, because I couldn't use a tripod, and you have to be I had to learn to hold my breath and slow my heartbeat and all that sort of stuff because with a 12mm lens you only have to be out by a fraction of a degree, and it's all over really. I know the software can correct some of that, but if it's on the wrong axis, it just doesn't work. So this one, I'll put it together like that. I've taken out probably just about all of the lens flare. There is a little bit of it still in there. I wanted to leave the glare in there because you don't get the feeling for how big and how imposing it is without that glare. I think it makes it look too sterile, so I left that, deliberately left that in, and I've just actually noticed another slight spot of lens flare, which is kind of unavoidable with the 12, but I can clone it out. And the other thing was that normally, because you would your eye reads from left to right, or at least us in the Western world. I would have framed this from the other side, but you couldn't. There was no position there. There's a kind of a pulpit or something. So I went the other way and didn't worry about it too much, because the brightest part besides the lights, the brightest part of the whole scene is I think they call it the sanctuary right at the back, and that kind of leads you. The carpet that goes up past the altar and all that leads you. All the lines lead you that way anyway, or to the ceiling. So. It's an architectural shot, but it's also it could be used in a travel magazine or something like that as well.
Yeah, and I do think it's a beautiful shot, and I totally agree with you with just the attention to detail in architecture. And I think some of that is that religion and faith is just so strong for some people that it's worth it for them to put the kind of time and detail and labor into to create monuments to it. And there are very few things that we love in our lives that deeply for the people that create these things. So and you did it justice here. It's just beautiful. I agree with you that it would have been stronger had it been from the other side, but I also so you can't do this if it was like in a travel magazine or something, but for me as an art image, I would probably flip it so that the leading lines are the right way, at least to see what the possibility is if it was oriented the other way.
I have actually flipped it and I didn't like it, so I just left it that way. So
okay, yeah. Well maybe in the group we can put them side by side and see. I'd be interested to see what some of the other apprentices would say about which way they like it. Because you are inclined to want to read it the opposite side. So I think that's just throwing off just a little bit the perspective in conjunction with the lens distortion, which I don't mind, because I do think that wide-angle lenses really help when you're trying to get the grandeur of the location, which this place just has tons of. I would love it if the light followed the leading lines and led you to the back part of the sanctuary. But for me, you have this one light up on the left-hand side, the first one, that's brighter than all of the others, and it's competing for the leading role of the image for me as far as the light goes, because it's noticeably brighter and has more flare than every other light. So I would think that you would have to either go in and add that to the others in post, or tone it down as much as you can, but I keep jumping to that visually while I'm looking at the image. But that aside, you know, it's a really beautiful shot. There's a couple of things. I think the distortion is a little bit too severe. You start losing the magnitude of it because it looks warped the further out you get. So the last column that you can see on the right-hand side, like, it's just such a stark angle and slant that it starts to look almost fake, like almost to the point of like half of a fisheye shot. So I think I might have just played with a couple of different lenses and tried different angles. It may have worked better as a straight-on shot just to kind of lessen that and give it the perspective, because you have a lot of competing elements with the arches, and you know, there's just so many lines going in different directions that when added with the distortion, I think it's almost visually confusing for people, I think, after a moment, because they're trying to make sense of it because they know that that's not how they see it because their perspective's off. But overall, it's still a really beautiful shot. For being HDR, I still feel like we could have pushed it a little further in post, just to make it really, really pop. I feel like it's so close, but it didn't quite hit that mark. So I'd be interested to see.
I deliberately hold back on my HDR because I don't like the HDR look on so many things, that I actually prefer it when people say to me, is that HDR or not? I like it to be on the edge, so I do pull back on it.
Yeah, and you know, if that's your style and that's what you're going to be known for, then that's great. This image in particular, I feel like it would have benefited from going a little bit further in the HDR. It doesn't have to, because I totally agree with you, like the ones that are really overdone, then it becomes all about the retouching and the HDR effect, not the actual image. So, but this one I think may have benefited from it. And if we saw them side by side, I may change my mind and say I like yours originally, but I feel like I'm wanting of that in this one. So I'm going to give you 2 on this one. I think it's commendable, but it doesn't have quite the same punch that the other image did.
Sure. Okay, next one. Okay, here's another HDR, but this one has been pushed further. This is, pardon me, the style of HDR that I used to do quite a lot because I quite liked it. I've been following Trey for a long time, and I love his work and I love his style, and I actually used exactly the same software, and I probably used a similar style to what he did, learning from one of his many teaching tools that he leaves on the internet free. So that's the kind of the style that this one is deliberately in. It's one of the rare moments in this city where you've actually got a mirror finish on the river. That's not a fake reflection. That's the real deal. And I did. It was on a tripod, and it was probably 5. I'm not sure. I can't remember now, but it's probably 5. Hang on, I can tell because I can tell all my file names. Yeah, it was a 5 frame HDR. Not that means a lot, but and the thing with night stuff is that you don't just want it to be pretty. You want to have some. It's got light trails in it from the trams or trolley cars, as you call them, that have gone across the bridge there. I've made sure that I get the starburst with like an F16 or so it would have been. And I made sure I've composed it so that there is some nice. It draws you into the shot. It pulls you into where the central area is, and also you can see the reflections. The only thing I really don't like about it, and I don't know what the answer is I hate the clouds. The trouble is that if you did replace them or put stars or something like that, and then anybody who knows Melbourne will know that it's a fake straight away because you can't see stars from Melbourne. It's it's worst weather in Australia. it was amazing. There was only that many clouds, and I have got a version where you can hardly see the clouds, but it kind of leaves a blackness there. So you need something. I'm really a victim of circumstance in this one. But I said this is more of the older style stuff that I was doing. That I'm kind of I still pull out occasionally when I really want to do it, but I'm kind of moving on from there a bit, and I'm also looking to find a human element to my shots a lot more, and there just wasn't one here. I mean, and there probably wouldn't have been. I could have stood there all night and not got anything. Those are the only things that are lacking for me, and this is kind of like my standard, HDR shot if I wanted to do something like that, and I don't do them that often anymore, but occasionally they come out, and that's probably the things that are missing for me.
Okay. I think that this is a beautiful shot. I'm going to put you on mute because I'm hearing an echo. It's throwing me off. I love this image as a whole. Visually, and again, this comes into the difference between doing street and location photography as a form of documentary or as a form of art. It makes me crazy visually that you have these very ethereal, magical green lights only under the first rung of the bridge, and then the other two don't. I feel like they're missing. I would have totally gone in and cloned them in on that one, because that would make me crazy every time I look at it. But that's totally personal preference, and again, it doesn't work if you're showing it, because other people that know the area would be like, wait, there aren't lights on all of them. But for me, it just makes it very noticeable that there's like an emptiness because of that. When there's so much color and light, they look like these dark abysses through it. The clouds don't necessarily bother me, but I don't think that they add anything to the image. But I do agree with you that particularly on our left side looking at it, there's kind of this hollowed out darkness. So I probably would have gone in and actually cloned a few more clouds into it just to break up that patch of dark, because everything else is so bright and so textured that it's like just this black hole that's sucking in the viewpoint. That aside though, I love the mirror look on the river. I love all the coloring. I love the starbursts. I love the glow of the lights. I don't know what the red sign is over there, but that one hops out for me just a little bit. I think because it's detached, it looks like it's floating rather than like on something. So it just looks a little bit out of place to me, but that's really that's the only thing that I note that's looking off. But this is it's just a stunning image. I could totally see this in any magazine or travel thing to come here, wish you were here kind of thing, postcards, that kind of stuff. Absolutely, 100%. So even with those couple of little things that are pulling away from me, I think that this is absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to give you a 3. I think it's exceptional. And then you have to turn your mic back on, because I can mute you, but I can't unmute you.
How's that? You can hear me again?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, here we go. Next one. This one, again, I put these 5 together to show what I've been doing, what I can do, and also what I think I will be doing in the future to some degree or not. This is more your landscape that I don't do so much, but I do like doing them occasionally, and I think in terms of if I'm doing travel, I'm going to have to do them. So I made sure that I get on top of them. This one is an exercise in post-processing more than anything, and I'm perfectly happy to show you the original. But I was walking through Tasmania with a friend of mine, and through these beautiful fern forests, and she was very impatient and wanted to get ahead and march off, and she was getting in my shot and stuff like that, and I always wanted to stop and take shots. And there were lots of tourists around who walked through this and the rest of it, and you go through these groves where the ferns were quite yellow, and you go through other ones which were really green, but there was never the combination where you had a really nice scene where you had the beautiful color tones and variations. It was either all green or all yellow and not much light, or the rest of it. And really what I've done is taken a bit of license here and turned this into what this scene would have looked like at the like the perfect time with the perfect light. So there's a lot of color toning in here with the golden color tones. I've cloned out a person who was walking past me at the time. I've reinforced the light beam which was there intermittently along that path. So I've kind of turned it into a scene that hey, this is what it would look like at its best, but it's not necessarily how it looked at the time. So yeah, it's sort of an exercise, and I couldn't get what I want, so I made it look like what I wanted later on. And I'm quite pleased with the shot. It ticks all the boxes for me, except for the fact that these days I look for a human element as well. And if there was a human element in there, or even an animal on the trail a bit further down, something to draw your eye down there, is what I'd be looking for now, and I'd be quite happy and to go there again on my own or with another photographer who has got some patience and actually stand and wait for the right moment for this all to fall together. But failing that, you don't always have those opportunities, and you have to make your own pictures and come back with something. So I've turned it into something.
Well, I will totally be your date anytime you want to go to this place because it's gorgeous and I want to go see it. That said, this is such an awesome location, and I totally see where you were trying to go with it, but I think that you missed the mark a little bit, and it may have been, this is so hard when you're shooting in this kind of dappled light where you're fighting with the trees for the exposure, because the highlights are kind of blown out on the main green fern that's low in between the trees, but then it's so dark when it's flanked by the palm off the edge, so you have these like sort of overexposed areas and then these really underexposed areas where we lost all the detail and can't really see what's going on. Particularly this huge kind of blown out spot between the two trees. So I would have liked to have seen that, and I don't know how much of that could actually be recovered by maybe just playing with the exposure and the levels, on a spot by spot basis and maybe dodging and burning a little bit, but I would definitely be interested to play with it some more.
A lot of it's there, and actually a lot of that flare and the look of being blown out is actually added later to give the effect, because it was very stark here. The experience of being there is the fact that you're in a what is quite a dark area, and you get these very bright shafts of light coming through, and looking up towards the light is glary even for your naked eye. So I was trying to kind of recapture some of that. As I said, I do have I have got, because I do stock photography too, I've got the unarted stock version of it around too, if you wanted to see that.
Okay, yeah, that'd definitely be something to add to the group later, because I'm very curious to see what the original looked like. And if this was added in, like I said, I totally see where you were going with it. I just think that we probably passed that mark and moved on it, kind of like the naked eye actually can't tell if something's in focus until it goes past focus. You'll notice that the next time you're like manual focusing, you have to actually go past the point of focus before it registers in your eye that it's out of focus. So I think that's what we did here. Like, we just pushed it just a little bit past where perfection was and lost it a little bit just in that one area to the right of the photograph. So I think pulling that back a little bit would actually make it stronger. That said, I absolutely love the beams of light coming in over the trail, and I think that has a very fairy tale, ethereal kind of feel to it that I'm totally digging. I love the color differentiation between the yellow and the reds, and then with the greens and the more expected kind of foresty colors. So it's got like these elements of expectation and then exceptional, which I find very enchanting about it. But the light for it is just it's killing the shot for me. I think that there was a lot more we could have did. So I am curious to see what the original was, to see if it's post-production. Or if it's just the shot. But again, I know it's really tough when you're shooting in that kind of light to expose it properly, because you're fighting with areas that have this harsh, almost blinding light coming through, and then shadows. So I'm gonna give this one a 1 for you. I think that it shows a lot of promise.
There you
Yeah,
go.
see? Okay, yeah, it's the retouching. The retouching is killing you on this shot for me. And that's not entirely true because I really love the color scheme that you went with, and I love what you added in with the beams of light on the path. I think just in this section over here on the right-hand side with the ferns, you just pushed it a little bit too far. And you lost it a little bit for me. So I'd be very interested to see you re-edit it, or if you're looking for some fresh perspective, we could even upload it to the group and you could let everybody play with it and see, where everybody's perspective is on it. Because it is a really beautiful shot, and you took it from pretty to something magical, which I love. I love when photographers can show you how they see things, not how you see them.
Yeah.
So,
As I said, I
yeah,
like to be when it really looks like that, and then that would be good.
yeah, it's a beautiful shot. You know what? I'm gonna bump you up actually. I'm gonna bump you up to commendable because I do really like the shot. There's a couple of things that bother me, but it is still really, really beautiful. I want to go there picture, so I'm gonna give you a commendable for it.
Thank you. Okay, and last one. Um, this kind of rolls together a few things that I really enjoy doing. I have a love for any old photograph at all. I'll stand there and stare at it, even if it's a snapshot from a long time ago. And also have, this love of sort of the street sort of feel of capturing people in moments, and also architecture. And this kind of rolls it all together for me in one thing. It's cloisters in New York City. It's I think a 13th century, or don't quote me on that, but it's an old monastery, or two monasteries that they pulled apart in Europe, in Western Europe somewhere, I think Portugal, Spain, somewhere around there, and they pulled it across and re-put it together here, and it is just gorgeous, and it's got all the original character. They brought it up to date, and I've taken all that up-to-date stuff out of it. But I kind of stood there with a very wide-angle lens, wanting to get this architecture shot, and there were people all the time coming through, and then I thought, look, don't fight it. Let's make them part of it. And I stood there and waited, and again, it's a difficult thing to sort of get a nice wide shot. This is a very high ISO shot as well. And this particular guy came along, and he's got a stack of books or something underneath, and he could be a student, he could be an architect, he could be a terrorist. You don't know what he is, but I like the fact that he came in and he's exploring and he's looking into the light, and that he's well dressed, and it's kind of, he's got modern dress on, and it's obviously a very old piece of architecture that he's in, and I kind of really enjoy the moment. When I was asked to do those, this image defines, I almost made it this one, but I thought people might read too much into me being him exploring the world or something like that, and so I sort of shied away from using this particular one, but it certainly does tick all the boxes for me. There's a fair bit of work in post. I mean, obviously I've monochromed it and I've added grain to it. Because I think it gives you the feel. There were some tourists just between him, on the other side of him, between him and the wall, that kind of destroyed his figure line there. And there was a guy sitting in one of the arches on the left, and there was a guy on the opposite end, part of the courtyard, just looking through one of the arches. So I just got rid of all of those. There were lights that I got rid of, plaques on the wall, and just made it simple. It's almost an abstract. It's about a person in architecture. It's a person in a frame. It's about a person exploring, and you can read a lot into it. And it's kind of simple, and the kind of look that I really do like when it works.
Hmm. Yeah. So in this one, I think the wider angle lens and the distortion that goes with that accentuates this image. Like, this is that wide angle lens used correctly here. Like, it just amplifies the power of the image tenfold, I think. And I love this shot, and I love the retouching on it. It definitely pays honor to the location and the feeling of the shot by having the monochromatic and the noise and giving it an old photograph of an old place kind of feel. Um, Things that jump out at me that I don't necessarily like, I think right at the bottom of the main column in the center here, this light to the right of it, coming off the shadow, is really harsh. It stands out really far. I might have gone in and just softened that, because the rest of the line all the way down that wall is really soft, as opposed to the left-hand side where you have the harsher arch lights. So I might have gone in and just kind of blurred that and toned it down just a little bit. The other thing that jumps out at me is that there's like the column pillars all the way on the very left-hand side at the top. It's so dark because it's so close, but the rest of the image around it is so light that it's kind of amputated from the photograph, so it's just kind of stuck there, and it doesn't quite look like it belongs. I might have gone in and just cloned those out and let the leading lines just lead right off the page, because it breaks them up. But that said, I love the light coming through the arches. I love your character. This is one of those things where the human element adds, because my inclination is to appreciate the things for what they are, or they're just a background to the person. And this is this kind of visual symbiotic relationship that he really enhances it. So I think you did really, really well there. This is another favorite for me with you. It would definitely make your portfolio for me, and I adore the image in general, so I'm going to give you an exceptional. I think it's very, very well done.
Thank you.
Is that it? Is that all 5? It is, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's 5.
Yay! Okay, so
Time flies.
you'll go up and you'll click off of the screen share.
Yep.
There we go. Okay. Whew. So you're still kind of settling in because you weren't originally with us. How are you
No.
liking your new home?
I'm liking it. I like the fact that there's diversity, and I'm finding my way around. I still don't know where to find all your bits and pieces. I know Mackenzie gave me a quick run through, but I haven't quite got it all yet. But I'm finding it, and I'll get there as I need it. I'll just find what I need to get along. I like the fact that there's a lot of diversity in the group, and there are people here who are not just doing boudoir or fashion or the rest of it. I was kind of very much sticking out in the other group. And I wondered completely why I was even chosen, because even though I had a couple of portrait type of shots there, they're very secondary for me. I do like taking pictures of people, but it's not what I want to pursue professionally. I kind of enjoy doing it occasionally. I've done a few bits and pieces just to experiment, really, and to improve my skills with lighting and all that sort of stuff. But in the last group, I really felt like I was a cactus in a rose garden. I couldn't quite figure out where I fit in, and I even emailed before. I didn't get to do my critique with Natalie, and I emailed her before and said, "Look, I'm not really into portraits, but is that what you want me to present for my critique?" And she said yes, and I thought, okay, I've got to find 5 good portraits that I'm happy to be critiqued with.
Yeah.
And that's kind of not my thing. So I put them up, and it was good because I had a hangout with 2 others and to choose which one should go there. And they're saying, look, yeah, they're okay, but they're not as good as your other stuff. Why are you putting this stuff up? And that's when it really hit me that I was in the wrong place. And
Yeah.
I needed to be somewhere else.
And the thing is that, for the sake of, and I don't want to speak for her, but I imagine Natalie telling you to submit those is because Natalie shoots people, She's Miss Aniello. All she's known for is those beautiful, gorgeous, high fashion art portraits, usually in epic locations, but there's still, the focus is on the person. Everything else is a supporting role to that. So I imagine her telling you to do that is because she can give you really excellent feedback about that. Which that's definitely mine too. I can give a lot more feedback and pull a lot more stuff out of portraiture than I can landscape and street photography, because I don't do it. So you probably don't get as good a feedback with me in regards to that as you would if you know, if you sat down with Trey or, you know, a master that's all that they do. So that might be something to definitely look for in the higher levels once you get through the foundation. Um, so we tried to stay true to that with Natalie's and everybody that's in there. Like I didn't add anybody to that cohort either that wasn't into portraiture because it's very focused on that.
Yeah.
But these are also the foundation levels. So if I'm at the start when you come in, my general theory is that what I want you to do is I want you to find what quickens your heart. It should absolutely be about passion and what you love to do, and I want to see that, and I want to see that passion in your imagery and get you to a point where you can start pursuing that professionally and having that financially support you so you can do what you love and not compromise on the rest, because you can always study further up with the art, but if you're not supporting yourself, then how are you affording to even stay and continue your studies? You know, it becomes a fight for time and money and energy. So with the foundation levels, I don't think the portfolio is quite as important as knowing what you want your portfolio to be and what you want to do with it. So, you know, and wherever I lack, there's quite a few other landscape and other photographers that are still in your kind of genre that can probably offer you even better input than I can as far as the actual artistry of it. I'm just trying to push you in the right direction as far as making that viable. So, so that being said, what do you want to do with all these beautiful location photos that you're taking?
Well, I've kind of started doing it. It was this has been sort of a hobby that got out of control, really.
Oh, I
And
like
now I'm
that. 5 points for that. A hobby that got out of control.
It was kind of helped me a bit of sanity, living in a bigger city away from my family and all the rest of it. And I used to post to Flickr all the time, and I got an email from Getty saying, "Hey, we see your Flickr stuff. We'd like to sell some of it." And I thought, "Oh, yeah, okay." And I didn't actually do anything about it for 6 months, and then I got a few more, and I finally sent some, and they were selling. And I thought, "Wow, what a concept! You can actually get paid money for doing something you enjoy doing." That's not an experience I've had before. I've been, working in a job that lost its luster pretty much in the first week, and I've been doing it for years, decades. So for me, so I started with the stock just as an experiment, and Getty takes 80%. So I thought there's got to be other agencies that, there've got to be other agencies that take less. So I found Alamy, which only takes 50, and they're probably not as aggressive with their marketing or the rest of it, but I've got them in both. Also, but I kind of see that as a secondary thing really now, because what I really like to do is to sell. I'm selling stuff through Fine Art America and through Redbubble, only because Fine Art America's delivery, freight costs are too much to this part of the world. But selling stuff through there, as they do everything from postcards to prints and all the rest of it, and it's print on demand. So I post them there. I put the keywords in. I put my price on them, and wait for the money to roll into PayPal, which is fine. There does need to be a degree of marketing there, because although they seem to have quite a wash of people window shopping, I don't think they have a lot of buyers, because they post all of their sales regularly, so you can see how much they're selling. But out of all of them, it seems to be one of the better ones. So that's sort of one stream that I've got going, and the stuff, and I'll go out and shoot, and stuff might end up on both Fine Art America and on the stock site, or it might be that the really artier stuff ends up on Fine Art America, and the plainer stuff, stock shots end up in the stock sites, and it's passive income. It just rolls through. You're not necessarily making a great deal of money each time, but it's it's going to keep going. Which I like. Passive income is the best.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So they're those two things. I'm also working on a book, which I've kind of got like versions of here, for Melbourne, because I've got enough to do a book on Melbourne. And they're basically coffee table travel type books, and I've got them printed in different formats because I want to feel and see what they look like. Mm-hmm. I don't like a lot of about this. I'm having a bit of an issue with my layouts and all the rest of it, but I made it initially in just some online software for a snapfish company or something like that, and it's crap software, and I really had a lot of trouble with it. But I managed to get some out, and people bought them because I had people. The reason I did it is people said, you should put a book out, you should put a book out. I said, okay, let's give it a go and see what happens. The photo quality is fine, but I suck at doing layout. I really don't know anything about it. And so I've recreated it in the Lightroom book module, and even that's not as flexible as I like, so you have to go to the print module and make your pages and then import them and all that sort of thing. So I've done that, but I've now just looked at it after having not looked at it for a month or so. I think, I don't like this. I need to redo it. There's something missing. But what I think is that this is a potential for me to do is to sell the same, the same image could be sold on stock on Fine Art America and in books and in maybe other places too. I don't know, but make books that can be sold online, print on demand. E-books, and with Blurb you can upload it to them and pay a little fee, and they'll turn it into an e-book, and then you can then make sure it gets sold through Blurb, through Amazon, and through iTunes. And I'm not sure the way the market goes at the moment. People either like Trey or somebody who's got flat books would know better, but I get the feeling that I'd probably sell a lot more e-books, because to get something like this, which is only 60 pages, is it's going to cost $60 to make, and people, I don't think people want to spend that money. They spend $9 money for an ebook.
How much are those books costing you from, say, Blurb?
This one that I got made, I got it on a half price special for $38. So really, it's
Okay, so
they're way too expensive for what they are.
Now you can do them for far less than that. The reason that it's costing you that much is because they're on demand. So if book printing and selling is something that you really want to delve into, then the best thing to do is work with a short run press where you would buy, say, 1,000 copies. Like when I did my paperback, when I did my book, Amherst bought the rights to it. But they changed everything about it. Like, I poured my heart and soul into it. One, my favorite software for designing books is Adobe InDesign, because it gives you 100% flexibility to design it exactly the way you want. So I wanted to create a book of my art that was a piece of art itself. So I just spent like literally 3 months locked in my office designing this book, along with writing it and creating the images, so that every page was just visually enticing. That was really, really important to me. And then Amherst was like, we love it, we want it. And then they sent me their version of it. They changed it from landscape to portrait. It went from being this 11 by 13 hardcover bound book to being this like 8 by 7.5 or whatever, portrait style. They changed all of the colors of my pages because they were too expensive. They changed the title. Then they had someone rewrite it because I'm too wordy. Like, it wasn't my book anymore. So I told them that the only way that I would give away with the rights was if they gave me a substantial advance, and if they also put in the contract that I was allowed to do a limited edition version of the book the way that I had designed it. So that's exactly what I did, and I paid for it out of my pocket, and it cost me, I think, about close to $15,000 to get the 1,000 of them made. But break that down in price, and it's less than half of what you're paying at half price on Blurb. So it's a significant investment up front, but you can always pre-sell the books too at a different rate. So for me, all of those books are selling as the limited edition for $125 a piece. So you can see, like, the profit margin is ridiculous on that. If the pictures are good enough, people don't mind spending $50, $60 for a really beautiful picture book, and then it's all about how you sell. Like, I did 1,000 copies. That's all that will ever be made. They will never have a second printing. That's it. They come with a certificate of authenticity, and that's the only one. If you want to sell like an artist, sell like an artist. Everything is more valuable as a limited edition. So I would do limited edition runs of maybe 500 or 1,000 or 5,000. Like, you can decide where you want them to be, and the sizes in the paper, but that's definitely something that I would look into rather than printing on demand. The other thing about me doing it myself is that I can still put it on Amazon. I can still put it on iTunes. You can do all of that yourself. You can get an ISBN number, and it can be sold in any bookstore. You can do all of that yourself, or you can outsource and have a book agency do it for you. But you can print them yourself. Nobody gets that money but me. I get 100% of it. The only money that does not come into me from the book sales is the money that goes to the credit card company because they get, I don't know, like 2.5 or 3%. Which is way better than 50 or 80%, who just stop selling on those sites. They do not deserve 80% of the profits of your work that you created. Just, they don't. I would rather you sell less copies of it for more money. You're giving your stuff away.
Yeah, I guess this is the trade-off that you've got to do, and it's the same with things like Fine Art America and the stock sites where they take so much, but they're also doing a job that I don't want to do. They're doing marketing, they're packaging, they're doing the commerce, they're doing all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of where you've got to do it. And this is the sort of thing that I'm interested to know from somebody like Trey or anybody, or maybe yourself. Is it better to have your own site where you do your own e-commerce and sell your own canvases or your own prints or your own books, or is it better just to let somebody else take their cut and just not worry about it?
Even if you don't want to do it, let's say you don't want to handle any of the marketing or the things, and it's piece cake to upload it and let them put it on Amazon and iTunes and you not have to worry about it, you can pay some college intern $10 an hour, $25 an hour, whatever the going rate is where you are, to sit down and fill out the forms for you for significantly less. And they get paid a one-time fee to put it up, and then it's up there forever. And they don't get a percentage of everything you sell every time you sell it. They're not doing anything. They're clicking a button. Take it from somebody who has done it all themselves. Is it a lot of work to set up? Yes, it is, but it's still only maybe 2 to 5 days to keep 80% of your income. If you don't want to do that, you don't want to be successful. Like, it's 80%. They are getting $80 out of every $100 you make. I can do an extra week's worth of work for that. If you don't want to, then take 20% of that and pay somebody else to do it that's not a huge conglomerate company. Pay a college intern, pay a smaller firm that's local to you, somebody that'll take a lesser percentage. You can hire people to do the specific jobs that they are doing for a one-time fee. And then once it's done, you get all of the payments from that point on. Or, at least take the time to shop around. But honestly, by the time you go and shop around and get different rates and hire someone, you could have did it for yourself. It's not hard. It's just daunting when you don't know how to do it. When you realize how easy it is, you'll go, fuck me for all that money I gave away for this. That's what I paid them 80% for. Like, it's just not worth it. Not for me, anyway. I like my money. I work hard for it. I don't want to give more than half of it to somebody else.
Yeah, it's a very new thing for me because I've only really started being serious about trying to make some money out of this for, I guess, 18 months, and it's been a part-time thing while I'm still trying to make a living as well. So it's quite a trail of discovery for me, and this is part of the value for being in the Arcanum, is that there's this wealth of knowledge networking that you can do to find out, the best ways of doing things. And people are going to say, forget about doing that. It's just you're wasting your time because they take too much money, or forget about doing this. I mean, I had to find out the hard way with things like microstock. I put stuff on, Shutterstock and all that sort of stuff. You get pennies for it. It's a waste of time. I wouldn't bother, but I had to try it to find out.
Yeah.
And but this is a shortcut. This is you telling me, hey, there's a better way. You might as well just do it yourself, because even though it's like stock, there's a lot of work involved, and you can spend thousands of hours putting your stuff up and not get paid a cent for months. But eventually, it comes in every month.
Mm-hmm.
Without you doing anything extra. So I kind of like that.
Right, which is very, very cool. But again, you can outsource anything you don't want to do. Like, you can very easily order I do think that in order to maximize profits, one, you're losing a ton of money by going with a print on demand that's charging you $60 a book for what's costing them $5 to make. They're getting easily $55 profit off of you if you're paying $60 a book. On top of the fact that they're getting a percentage of everyone that sells in their store, correct?
Yeah.
How much are you making from the books?
I'm not sure. I haven't gone into that with Blurb yet. I think you can actually just set your price, which is
You
like a
can.
lot of the other print on demands.
Absolutely. What are you going to set your price for?
But the trouble is, if you set your price above that, you're pricing yourself. You don't want to set it too high because people will go, "What? $80 for a book? That's too much."
They're paying 125 for mine.
Yeah, so maybe that's it, and that's something that I have to research to find out what people are willing to pay for this kind of book, and the kinds of books that I want to do.
Before you search, because you can make a case for anything either way. You can go, oh, well, this hardcover book's selling for 150. You know, JLark's is selling for 125. So obviously I can price it that high, but mine's also got a lot of writing and instruction in it. So my market is totally different than your market. Before you worry about what you're pricing at, worry about who's buying it and why. Those are the two most important questions. Who is buying my book and why are they buying it? Because then when you understand the reason why, you'll understand how to price it. If they're buying it because everything in my book is going to teach you everything you need to know about lighting, posing, and how you get my images and how to sell them so that you're making $2,000 to $3,000 a session, the value just went way up than saying, oh, it's a coffee table book of my pretty pictures. Yes, they're beautiful. They're lovely. You would love to have it on your coffee table. But if it was just a collection of my images, I probably wouldn't be able to. I might sell a couple, but it would be a more difficult sell because it's purely luxury. You know, the value is just for aesthetics. So if that's what you're doing, yeah, you're probably not going to sell a book for $75, $80, or $100 unless they're buying it because it's yours. If you have like diehard fans that are like, oh, I just love that. Like Trey could sell that in his sleep because he's Trey Reckless.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a book by Trey. It doesn't matter. He could have like freaking Lego characters sitting on tacos and sell the book because he's Trey Redcliffe. You know, same thing. Annie Leibovitz, you know, Natalie, like Miss Daniela. Their names are what gives it value. That's the mark of an artist. So if you're just starting out and you don't have the name yet, what is it that you're offering that's giving them the value?
Yeah, well, the value they're getting is, I think these are for souvenirs and coffee table books. I think that's the sort of market that I'm looking at. And if that's it, that's it. And I've got to market my stuff in the right place at the right price to sell it. And I think, for example, Melbourne, out of all the cities in Australia, probably has the most immigrants in it. And there would be people there that are visiting all the time. They want to have something they can take home. Or there'd be people who live in Melbourne who come from Greece or Italy or whatever, and they want to send a present to their family to say, hey, this is the city I live in.
Okay.
I think.
Where are they finding your book?
Well, this is the thing. Whether those people go online or not is a different thing. Maybe I have to get it into the physical bookshops.
Okay.
And there's been something revolution of that happening over here, where a lot of them have gone broke here because they can't compete with online. They can't compete with people buying them on Amazon and having them delivered even from the other side of the world. It's cheaper than buying a book in a bookshop here. So there's been quite a lot of shake-up there, and I don't know enough about the industry to know how to maneuver that, or whether it's worth maneuvering that. Maybe I'm better just concentrating on ebooks.
Well, one, if they're buying it online, they can buy a paper book online the same way they can buy an ebook. You can do both, which you should. You should have it in both formats for every book that you sell, because some people like their Kindle, their iPad, their tablet, and some people, like me, will always love having pages to turn. It's just, there's something about that that's different for me than scrolling on my tablet. And I have both, but I will always prefer a paper book. Other people look at them and go, they just take up so much space, and why buy all these bookshelves and take up all this room in my house when I can have 2,000 books right here at my fingertips? So it just depends on personal preference. The other thing that I think that you're doing is you're thinking very traditionally. And the trick to being successful is going where your competition is not. So right now, let's say that there are 20 let's say there's 10,000 photographers right now writing, photography books that they're looking to sell, and let's add them to the 50,000 other authors that are writing normal books that are all competing for this person to buy them. And let's say out of those 20,000 that 5,000 of them are writing travel ones, 2,000 of them are writing about your country, and 200 of them are writing about Melbourne specifically. So you have all this competition no matter how low you go. What are they all thinking? They're all thinking exactly like you are and going, do I do an ebook? Do I put it on Amazon? How do I get it in the bookstore? Because that's where people buy books. But you actually answered your question that the people that would really love to have it are people that would love to get maybe a smaller version and send it home and go, hey, mom and dad, I'm here in Melbourne on vacation or visiting or whatever, and I wanted to send you this back so you could see where I am and what I'm doing. Most people don't go travel to an exotic place that's exotic for them or interesting and then go in the commercial bookstores. Where did they go? They go to all the landmarks. What did the landmarks usually have? Gift shops?
Yeah.
Yeah, so putting your book somewhere where it's one of the only books available makes it a higher commodity. Where they're buying keychains that have like their kids' names on it, and I don't know if you guys do that, but in America it's like all the rage. Like anything that you can get your kids' names on, like shot glasses and keychains and slippers, I don't know, but everything has their names on it and stuff like that. So there's all these little trinkets, and they usually have, like they'll have little miniature versions of the statues and the monuments and things like that. So if you have this big, beautiful book by Ray Warren about the history of Melbourne and, all the iconic places to go visit, I could see that selling. I could also see you doing postcards and posters and what else? Smaller prints.
I did get one made like this size, which is, this cost $8 to make.
Yeah, and see, same thing though. If you got that done on a small run press, it would cost you about $2.
Yeah, and that's the sort of thing that I could see people picking up and throwing into their carry-on luggage. It doesn't have as many photographs as the other one, but it's got the better ones because I've had to weed it down. But this is, soft and it's light, and you could probably, they might go, oh, let's take a few of those, and I can take them home for Uncle John and Auntie Mary and all the rest of it. So that's a possibility too, and that's why I got different sizes printed, because I want to see what they're like and feel and think where they could be going and who would want them.
Okay. Yeah, so my advice to you, your homework assignment, and then we're going to wrap it up, but your homework assignment is to do some research on where all of the other travel books are. I'm guessing they're in bookstores. And your other research is to figure out 20 different locations that a tourist is likely to want to go see coming into the country for the first time. Whatever those things are, you're going to start looking for little shops and, especially like gift shop kind of things. Little restaurants are really good. That little coffee shop with that waitress kind of thing. Those are all really good places to ask them if you can put your books in the store, And then I don't know if you understand the way that books work as far as when you're selling them to the bookstore, but basically the way it works is, let's say you were selling these books for $20 a piece. In our country, it's Barnes & Noble. I don't know if you have it there, but Barnes & Noble, Amazon, the whole 9 yards, they buy the books at like a 60 to 75% discount. So we'll say if you were selling them for $10, they're buying them for like $3. And then they mark them up from their store back up to the $10 so that they make a profit. That's how it usually works. That's how they do it with the publishers and everything too. So if you're going to sell it to the stores, then it becomes a way for them to make income too, which is usually the way that it works. The other thing that you can do to get them on board, if you're doing a travel book of, say, the top 50 places you want to go see while you're in Melbourne, adding a couple of them to the list and going, oh my God, I come here all the time. I have this coffee. I'm madly in love with your waitress. She's just the friendliest, cutest little person ever. she's so on point. I took this gorgeous picture, of your restaurant on the little plaza. I have this and that, and I'd like to include it. Would you like to buy a couple copies of the book that you could sell to your clients? No? Well, would it be possible for me to leave, 10 copies or whatever, or one copy, and when it sells, you just give me a call and I'll come back and buy another? Or even if it's just something for them to look through with like a sample one that when you open to the first page, it says, if you would like to have a copy of this book, please go to raylauren.com, or go on Amazon, or, whatever the case is. But I would leave these in all of those places. There's so many different ways that you can do little guerrilla marketing that it's one day. Go hit all your favorite restaurants, eat out all day, enjoy good food, drop off your books. Like, it's one day of work, but you're keeping 100% of the profits then. You know what I mean?
Yep.
What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good idea. I don't live in Melbourne anymore, but I'm going to be visiting there a bit.
Okay,
But
well,
yes,
even picking like a liaison or someone there, same thing. Hire broke college kids to go do your running around for you. Any of the stuff that you don't want to do, hire out. Hire out everything. I love my photography. I love my retouching. I hire out the laundry. That's my work that I don't want to do. So anything that you're like, I don't want to do that, hire someone to do it. I have no problem with that, because if you hire individuals, you'll pay less money than you will in percentages by working with these big companies. They're extortionists in comparison to what you're getting paid. They do not deserve it. They don't. And your work is good enough to sell, period. End of story. So if you don't start valuing what you do and the rates that you're getting, nobody else will either. And it's a lot easier to get to the point that you can do this full time when you're keeping 100% of the profits. Getting 20% is going to be a long road. Not impossible, but it's going to be a much longer road because you're only getting 20%.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Good.
Well, that's just about it. Any last minute questions, comments, concerns?
No, I think we've gone through everything. I had a list and we've gone through it all. Tick, 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 tick.
Awesome. Good. All right. Well, you have survived your level 4 critique. You are now halfway through the foundation levels. Welcome to level 5, and I will see you again at level 9.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.